Hello, everybody. Oh, excuse me. Good evening. Welcome. I am Meredith Rosenberg. I lead the Global Digital Education Practice at Russell Reynolds. Welcome to the 2017 Innovation of Color Award and Reception. As many of you who know me, I'm very passionate about education, like all of you in this room, and more importantly, about innovation to empower, to enable, and to transform. At Russell Reynolds, we focus on helping our clients attract the talent that drives innovation. So I wanted to share with you a few truths that I know from this work that I do. One, we know that in the long run, companies win because they have great talent. Two, we also know that organizations that prioritize diversity, inclusion, and belonging foster creativity. So we know this because we have quantitative results from a recent study we did called the Diversity and Inclusion Pulse. 90% of those who score their company high in terms of fostering a diverse workforce and an inclusive culture agree that their company brings out their most creative ideas, 90%. Organizations with diverse talent and an inclusive culture serve their constituents better, innovate more, have stronger brands, and are all vehicles for staying relevant, which we know is very important in this ever-changing education sector. We also know that you need accountability, execution, and leadership to drive results. So ultimately, the differentiator is people, as we know, and it really all comes down to great talent. I'm so pleased now to introduce one of these great talents who really has embraced and proven this mantra of people. Marian Wright Edelman, to my right. Founder and president of the Children's Defense Fund, has been an advocate for disadvantaged Americans for her entire professional career. Please come here. Thank you. She basically has really embraced this mantra of leveraging the community and caring families to help children throughout their journey. I'm so pleased to introduce you and welcome you. Thank you.
Delighted to be here. And thank you for your work. And we got a lot more work to do. This is the most dangerous time we've had in 50 years, and we are not going to go backwards, and so we'll just have to determine that we're going to build a movement to move forward. So I hope this is going to be the commitment that's here. I have had great role models all of my life, and one of them was Sam Proctor, who was the great preacher at Abyssinia Baptist Church. He was also a Peace Corps head, country head, but he's somebody who was very eloquent. And when we bought Alex Haley's farm, he came and opened up the farm with a thing about, can these dry bones live? And he said, and he gave a little speech about the scratch line. And he said, we do not all start at the same scratch line, although there's one original position hypothetically for everybody. You were born here owning nothing, having earned nothing, just born. There you are helpless. You are indebted for everybody, but some of us opened our eyes and saw nothing but blessings just dumping on us. I opened my eyes, and there was Herbert and Thelma and my grandma Hattie, a slave in Chesterfield County in 1882, smiling on me. How in the world could I lose? Taught me how to read and sing four-part harmony before I ever got to school. Taught me how to play the clarinet and the piano and made me go to Sunday school. Daddy didn't send us, Daddy took us. And if there was nobody in the Sunday school but one person, that would have been my daddy with his little 6 children. That's what I inherited. I didn't earn it. You can't get that with a Visa card. It was given to me. Now, all through my neighborhood, there were other young fellows, I could remember all of them. Daddies were drunk half the time. They didn't read in their homes. Nobody went to Sunday school, none of that. They started out below the scratch line. I started life way above the scratch line, and everywhere I went, someone said, aren't you Miss Hattie's grandson? Aren't you Herbert's boy? Skipped 3 grades, never was in the 3rd, 5th, or 7th grade. And everything was smiling on me. Finished high school at 15, went on to college on a scholarship. None of that did I deserve. I hadn't earned any of it. I started out with the head of steam. They had trained my mother and father, who learned poetry, Paul Laurence Dunbar, Alfred Lord Tennyson, and they gave all of that to us in great abundance. And my buddies up the street Had none of that. Now, if we want these bones to live again, those of us who have inherited benefits that we did not earn or deserve need to turn around and help those who inherited deficits they did not earn or deserve, and help them to rise up to the scratch line where we are, so that they may earn and enjoy all the benefits that some of us take for granted. Can these bones live? He said, yes, these bones can live. And one of the things this country is going to have to remember is God did not make two classes of children. And we continue to have that myth and pursue our public policies and deny millions of children, 14.5 million, who are poor. That's 5 times the population of Utah. It's disgraceful, and it's going to be our undoing. And so I hope that those of us who were blessed with being born above the scratch line are going to get out here and do what we have to do to save our country, to save our children, and to end child poverty right now. Since we are so much on the defensive, we should be ready to go ahead and have an affirmative vision of what we ought to do, because this really is a Noah's Ark time. And one of the things, we're pack rats in my family, and one day an anonymous sage's thing showed up in my, I don't know who it came from, where it came from, but it says everything you need to learn in life you can learn from Noah's Ark. And the first message, the first lesson was, don't miss the boat. And the United States is going to miss the boat to the future if we continue to destroy the seed corn and to let millions of children be in poverty, be killed by guns, not have health care, and are hungry. It's disgraceful. And so every day we should wake up and say, how are we going to save our nation, but how we're going to save our children, because that is going to be our undoing. We cannot let 14.5 million children be poor. Child poverty is terribly costly. MIT Nobel laureate economist Bob Solow did a study for us maybe a decade ago about the cost of child poverty. And he estimated that every year we keep 14 million children in poverty, cost about $500 billion. We had the Urban Institute look at 7 or 8 policies, housing vouchers, all of which they're trying to destroy right now, housing vouchers, earned income tax credit, health care, all the basic things that each of us want for our own children. And they estimated that if we would invest about $77 million, we could decrease overall child poverty by 77%, by 60% for all children, for black children, 72%. How do we keep doing the wrong thing to hurt children that cost us more? And we have these dumb policies of not educating our children, and the majority of our children in all race and income groups, as you probably know better than I, can't read or compute at grade level in 4th and 8th grade. We know what the dropout rates are, and among black and Latino children, 80% can't read. What are the children going to do in this globalizing world if they cannot read or compute at the most basic levels? Our biggest national security problem, our biggest economic security problem does not come from any outside group or nation. It comes from our failure to invest in an educated populace in a very competitive world. And we need to get with it. We need to get with it if we are going to be leaders. The second lesson from Noah's Ark, I'm not going to give you all of them, but we're all in the same boat. We are all in the same boat. I mean, when we look at the number of folk who can't get in the military, who's going to be our army? Who's going to compete with the Chinese and whatever? But we're all in the same boat, whether we like it or not. And the majority of our children already are children who are non-white, who are being born, and we may not like them, but we need them. And we need to invest in them. We can't do it for the right reason. So we have a self-interest that we really must pay attention to, even if our morality and our creed doesn't allow us to make sure that every child gets what they need. The third is just to plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark, and I'm sure everybody thought he was crazy. But we need to kind of prepare for the future, and the future is right now. And what is happening to our children, and the greatest threat to the safety of the nation in the last 50 years, we can't let it happen. So you better get out here. If we care about the quality of life in our country and about just doing what is decent for every child and every sacred child. The last one I'm going to say, and I won't tell you, well, I got 2 more. Don't listen to the critics and naysayers. just get on and do the job. You don't need to be a homecoming queen or run for anything. Just get out there and do what you've got to do to save your children. But my favorite is because everybody keeps waiting for the magic bullet and waiting for the Dr. King to come back. Dr. King's not coming back. We're it. Dr. King did not start a single movement. He responded to the welling up of people. And so, we're not going to have that great leader. And we can't be sitting there waiting, but he was able to encapsulate the pleas and the demands and the needs and the hopes of people who wanted to change. It was local people. Miss Parks wasn't the first one to sit down in Montgomery. Fred Shuttlesworth was in Birmingham. And people started decades before trying to challenge segregation. And get us in a room, civil rights people, none of us will agree on when did the civil rights movement start. And they will point to the Montgomery bus boycott and say, oh, no, March on Washington. And many of us really concluded with a bunch of historians that it was really when black soldiers started coming back after World War I and World War II and couldn't get treated as well as prisoners of war, German prisoners of war. But movements take a lot of seed sowing, a lot of seed planting. And all of us have to understand that Dr. King isn't going to come back. We're it. And we've got to get out there and get out of our comfort zones and build a movement that right now is going to say no to the new policies that want to take us back 50 years. They can't have the safety net. They cannot have our children's health care. And we need to be out there saying and being clear and to do whatever has to be done. Children don't come in pieces, and you're not here just to educate them in school. If they can't eat, they're not safe. You got to deal with the whole child, and we must want for other people's children what we want for our own. And so I thank you for what you do. It's movement time. It's getting out of our comfort zone time. And so we don't do it, who else is going to do it? I wear around my neck, and this is my wife, 2 ladies. And when I think I'm having a hard day, I just rub them. One of them is Harriet Tubman, who, you know about Harriet Tubman? I don't know if the president knows about Harriet Tubman. Maybe we should teach him. We should know our history, but at any rate, she started at the Underground Railroad. And but the thing about Harriet Tubman that I loved is she didn't just try to free herself. She kept coming back to bring other people to freedom. She boasted that she'd never lost a passenger on Underground Railroad. I don't know of any airline or train company that can meet that record. But the country can't keep moving ahead if it doesn't come back and get all those children whom we've left behind, left in prisons. It's the dumbest investment policy in the world for states to continue to spend 3 times more per prisoner for public school pupil. In this cradle of prison pipeline, we got to break it up, okay? But Harriet Tubman, if she could do what she did, and do it as many times as she did, we can do what we have to do today. And my other lady, because we all want to be big dogs very often, and make sure we're all on TV. Well, you don't build movements mainly by TV. You have to get out there and build relationships with people and build trust. And you can't wait for the 4 years to come by. You got to be out there beforehand. And so Sojourner Truth is my other role model. And I wear the 2 of them every day. And her theory of change is one that I adapt. She was very eloquent, and she didn't take any guff off of anybody. And she was about to speak one day, and an old white man said, old slave woman, I don't care anymore about your talk for an old flea bite. And she said, that's all right, but the Lord willing, I'm going to keep you scratching. And so many of us want to be big dogs and have big press conferences and have big announcements. Change is hard scut work over time. It's planting lots of seeds. But enough fleas biting strategically can move the biggest dogs. And I have watched over the years the legislation that didn't come out of press conferences, just came from not going away, from just wearing them down, standing outside the bathroom when the senator comes out, when he won't see you. You just have to bug them. And in this time, which I think is the scariest time we've seen in the last 50 years, where they're trying to redefine the role of government and redistribute money, more money upwards at the cost of those who have nothing. This is the time for us to find our voice and find our vote and find our organizing, get rid of our egos, and save our children. And we can do that. And what a great cause. Thank you.
We on? That right there is what you call a tough act to follow. Yes, good evening. Good evening. My name is Henry Hips, Senior Program Officer at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and you guys sound like I feel, which is exhausted after another good GSV week. And if you are a rookie to it, you will quickly find out that this thing is a marathon. And if you step out like a sprint, you will be on your face by day 1. And so now that we're in day 3, I'm excited because this conversation gives me energy. And first and foremost, I want to thank Deb and the GSV team for continuing to offer this space for us to celebrate innovators of color and being really dead clear that, yes, it's about equity. However, it is even more about impact. And if you actually look at the diversity of lives that we're trying to impact collectively in this sector, from early childhood through K-12 to post-secondary and workforce development experiences, it ought to follow that leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators ought to reflect both those communities and bring those diversity of experiences to the table to actually find and deliver more effective solutions. So that's really what this time is about. And so we welcome all to come join us in that celebration. And so along those lines as well, this is also opportunity for fellowship among innovators of color themselves. And so along those lines, to try to continue some of that fellowship over time, recently launched a LinkedIn group called the Education Innovators of Color. Again, Education Innovators of Color, it's an open LinkedIn group, so please check that out if you want to continue to be connected to this community over time. So first, before we get started with the celebration of this year's innovator, I'd be remiss to not hold up our innovator from last year, Miss Jessie Willie Wilson. EdTech CEO in the game, hands down. And so Jesse, just wanted to make sure, we extended some of that love to you in the room as we presented the award to you in absentia last year. Hopefully you felt some of that love extended from San Diego, but want to make sure you got some this year. So thank you for coming. I'm really honored to honor this year's Innovator of Color, Kaya Henderson. And I was excited to see that she got selected. Kaya and I don't know each other that well, but I feel like we know each other well because we have so many good colleagues and good peoples in common. So I've been an admirer of your work from afar for a long time, and recognizing that the challenge of changing lives today while thinking about deep, really innovative change, we got to actually focus on where folk are now, right? We need in-system innovation. We need really deep commitment to kids today to drive innovation from the inside out, right? And that is very much the story that Kaya represented in DCPS. And so let me really quickly read off a few of her accolades. I'm not even gonna try to get through all of them. But Kaya served as the Chancellor of DC Public Schools from 2010 to 2016. And under her leadership, the Embattled District became the fastest growing urban school district in the country. Her tenure was marked by consecutive years of enrollment growth, highest graduation rates in the history of the district, improvements in student satisfaction and teacher retention, increases in AP participation and pass rates, and the greatest growth of any urban school district in the country on NAEP scores for several years. So that deserves a round of applause right there, right? And so kind of skipping forward to some of the additional accolades, what boards are you not on? So Aspen Institute, the College Board, International Women's Foundation, the chairman of the board of Education Leaders of Color, which Kaya founded and I know is her, one of her passion projects, on the Georgetown University Board of Trustees, the Pahara Aspen Fellowship, and I could go on. And so if there's any question about how in demand Kaya's innovative thinking is, while she's kind of taking some time off, in air quotes, she is actually working on some really fascinating work, and much of it's focused on innovation. So she's working with Jim Shelton and the folks at Chan Zuckerberg Initiative as a fellow, working on both strategy and program work. She's also a distinguished fellow at Georgetown University, where she's focused on innovation in higher education, and also interestingly on racial reconciliation. How many folks have been tracking that Georgetown story, right? About the sale of slaves and how that actually footed the bill for the growth of Georgetown, and how they're now coming to terms with what that means in their history, and in a sense of reparations, right? A lot of those family members are now getting scholarships. So Kaya's involved with that work. She's also superintendent in residency at the Broad Academy, where she is coaching aspiring superintendents. And then, as if she needed another side hustle, also coaching sitting superintendents and offering her wisdom as, in my view, one of the most successful urban school district superintendents in recent history. So with that, I'm going to ask you to join me in asking Kaya Henderson to come to stage. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think you'll take a big seat. All right, I'll hold this for you. You want to say a couple of words? Let me get out of your way.
Good afternoon. I am, first of all, I have to say, I didn't know anything about this. In fact, I was booked to leave yesterday, and I got an email saying, hey, you've won this award, and we need you to stay through Wednesday. So here I am, and and so it was a tremendous surprise. And I want to first thank Russell Reynolds for sponsoring this award, but I really want to tip my hat to ASU GSV for the opportunity to be here for the recognition and for convening us. I think when I first came to ASU GSV, it was 4 or 5 years ago, and I was on the first panel of superintendents that the conference had ever had. And to see how it has grown, including educators in meaningful ways, to see how it has grown, putting diversity right out in front. I just want to commend Deb and her amazing team for the work that they do for this conference. And I stand on the shoulders of giants. I cannot believe that they put Miriam Wright Edelman on before me. Oh my gosh. But Miss Miriam has always been a hero, and she has most recently become a friend. And when I quit my job a couple months ago, she called me up and she said, let's have lunch. And I was like, Miriam Wright Edelman wants to have lunch with me? Yes, right? And so we go sit down and we have lunch, and she says, you did a really good job. I'm super proud of you. And I said, great. And she said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to take some time off. She said, is somebody going to pay you? And I said, yes, people are going to pay me. She said, okay, that's good. I need somebody to pay you because I got some work for you to do, and I can't afford to pay you. So she is serious when she says get to work. And she is going to put each and every one of us to work, whether you can pay us or not. But I feel, and so at the beginning of June, I'm going down to the Haley Farm and I'm gonna go do some work for Miss Marion, because that's what it takes. And I'm really pleased to have shared the stage with her. I also wanna thank my people. Like, I got lots of people in this room, right? People like the sort of charismatic individual leader. But no good leader does their work by themselves. They do it with teams, and they do it with people who support them, whether they work with them every day, or whether they see them a couple times a year, or whether they big them up on Facebook or Twitter. There's a community of people who have enabled me to be the leader that I am. And so for each and every one of you out there who knows that you are my people, this award is for all of us. It's really important that people know that I didn't do this by myself. And I guess the last set of folks I want to thank is my city, Washington, D.C., because it gave me an unprecedented opportunity to literally change the world, to change what people believe about poor Black and brown kids, to change how we expect and what we want from all of our young people. It gave me the opportunity to create and to innovate and to take the entrepreneurial spirit that has been cultivated in me from the time I was small through my professional career, and bring it to bear on one of the most intractable systems in this country. And I had a ton of fun doing it, and we made a huge impact. And that's not something that a lot of people get to say. And so as you all think about what innovation means, I would challenge you to not think that you can only innovate outside of systems. In fact, the most necessary and urgent innovation needs to happen within systems. Because while people have the luxury of going out and creating something brand new from scratch, there are kids who are sitting in front of us every single day. And we owe them as much as we owe the children of the future. We owe them the caliber and the quality of education that we want to create in these all new settings. But somebody has to attend to the children that we have now. And coming out of my Teach for America experience, I watched all of my colleagues be really frustrated with the system and go off and start new schools or work outside of the system. And the question that I continue to ask myself is, the most vulnerable, everybody who can get out does, right? The people who are left in the system are literally our most vulnerable children who have no other options. And if we're watching all of this great human capital leave systems and go create things for other people, who is going to attend to our most vulnerable? Who's going to provide them with the caliber and quality of education that each of us wants for our own kids? And that's what I had the opportunity to do in DC public schools, and it worked out pretty well. So thank you for recognizing the work that we did as a team in DC public schools. I hope that the takeaway is that system work is not impossible. System work does not kill you. System work does not beat you up. I'm doing all right, right? But it's going to take more of us working both inside and outside the system to bring the kind of change that we need, to deliver on the promise that Ms. Marion has so eloquently articulated in terms of saving our children. Thank you.